And in Des Moines, Iowa, former Vice President Mike Pence is preparing to formally launch his campaign. Pence's advisors say he's betting big on evangelical voters in Iowa, but early polling shows Trump with a strong lead in the Hawkeye state. NewsNation's Kellie Meyer is live in Des Moines tonight. And Kellie, what are you hearing from voters there about Pence's announcement tomorrow?
Hey there, Elizabeth. Well, now that Mike Pence is throwing his name into the presidential primary hat, he's going to have to work to show these voters that he's no longer former Vice President Mike Pence, but now presidential candidate Mike Pence. And after years of being in Trump's shadow, the question is, will he be able to break away from that image?
Tonight, former Vice President Mike Pence less than 24 hours away from making his run for the White House official. Launching not from his home state of Indiana, but kicking off his presidential bid in the crucial first-in-the-nation GOP caucus state.
I think Iowa's ready to once again embrace their role of shaping our national leadership.
But first, Pence has to pry those Iowa voters away from his former running mate's grip, shifting his image from former President Trump's at times stiff sidekick to a motorcycle-riding man of the people.
Mr. Pence, you going to rev up a few votes today?
Am I going to what?
Rev up a few votes today?
I needed that line, didn't I? That's great.
Pence working to strike a balance of separating himself from his former boss without pushing conservative voters away.
I mean, most people know me as Vice President of the United States, but they may not know that before that, I was a conservative governor in Indiana where we balanced budgets, where we cut taxes, where we stood for the sanctity of life.
Pence's pro-life stance, one of the biggest differences between the former VP and former president. Pence once said he would shut down the federal government to defund Planned Parenthood. Trump has called a 6-week abortion ban, quote, too harsh. Possibly an area where Pence sees an opening to appeal to conservative Christian voters.
As we've traveled around the country, we've gotten a lot of encouragement to enter the race for the Republican nomination for president.
Pence growing more outspoken over the last several months that the country needs to turn the Trump page, speaking more openly about breaking from the former president on the January 6th attack at the U.S. Capitol. In March, telling a room of reporters and Washington elite that Trump will be held accountable. In April, appearing before a federal grand jury investigating Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election results, doing it despite Trump's attempts to stop him from answering questions under oath about any potentially illegal acts committed by Trump.
In the immediate days leading up to January 6th, I saw a cast of characters, lawyers that frankly should never have been allowed on the White House grounds, giving the president counsel that was just simply not grounded in history or the Constitution and the law.
Pence now leaving it to the voters to decide if he'll be successful at breaking away from Trump's shadow.
I'm just very confident that whatever things look like right now, that Republican primary voters are going to look at the field, think very deeply about who can best carry our message and carry majorities to victory.
But taking on Trump here in the state of Iowa, Elizabeth, no easy task. From what we've seen on the ground over the last week, he still has a lot of support here in the state. But I will say that one voter telling me over the weekend that he was surprised by what Pence had to say and that he didn't think he would say this, but he believes he's going to vote for Mike Pence. So the verdict's still very much out here in Iowa.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.